Hour 2 is brought to you by Landmark Cinemas. In Landmark Cinemas now, The Accountant 2. Christian Wolf applies his brilliant mind and illegal methods to reconstruct the unsolved puzzle of a Treasury chief's murder. Starring Ben Affleck, John Bernthal, and J.K. Simmons, The Accountant 2 in Landmark Cinemas now. Well, Liz Hood has no time for movies. Alyssa Hood joins us from Winnipeg Sports Talk. And hey, Liz, thanks for joining us on game day. Jets, Blues tonight, game 5. I'm going to cut right to the chase. This is our poll question today for EMJ Marketing. Is it the biggest game in Winnipeg Jets history?
You'd have to think so, right? It's been a really interesting week for the Winnipeg Jets market and for fans, for media, for everyone alike, because, like you said, it's a pretty defining game 5 here, considering how the last 2 games have gone, and not just that, but in the fabric of the last couple seasons. There's a lot on the line tonight, and obviously it's not a game 7. There's still some opportunity for them to push back, even if tonight doesn't go their way. But holy smokes, do they need to come out guns a-blazing at home tonight.
Sure, it'll be the biggest game in Jets history until the next one, because this is not an elimination game. But in your mind, listen, I watched the first 2 games and then the first period of game 4. Through all of that, the Jets had the Blues completely in hand. What did I miss? Like, how did this thing change?
It's so funny that you cite those specific moments, because game 1 and 2 and the beginning of game 4 were in fact good hockey games, and they look good for the Winnipeg Jets. There is a lot to kind of dissect with some of the different things that did go wrong. And listen, I'm going to give full credit to the St. Louis Blues. They've had better depth scoring, better special teams, better goaltending. A lot of different things have gone well for the St. Louis Blues. I still do think there is a certain extent that they are punching a little bit above their weight class, but it doesn't matter if the Winnipeg Jets are going to be severely underperforming, which it looks like they have in the last little stretch here. There's been some luck maybe on the side of the St. Louis Blues, but they came out after putting together a pretty solid performance, in my opinion, in games 1 and 2, and really hammered down on the areas of weakness that they exposed in the Winnipeg Jets in those games 1 and 2, as limited as they were. And I think they really were able to contain Winnipeg's best players. They were able to move a lot of pucks through the O-zone and get in the lanes of a lot of shots that Connor Hellebuyck wasn't able to see, and it was really successful for them. And look, I give credit to the St. Louis Blues more than anything, but the Winnipeg Jets also do need to pick up their own slack here.
Of course. And I was excited to see that Clark had you lined up to come on, Alyssa, because I'm up to my eyeballs in Battle of Florida. Like, I have not really been following many other series. This one's had enough of excitement and stuff to follow, trust me. But like with Hellebuyck being pulled the last 2 games, has he been made available to the media? Because I know in years past when he's had a meltdown in the playoffs, he has not. So what's happening there with Connor Hellebuyck?
So Connor Hellebuyck spoke with the media almost immediately upon the Jets' return to Winnipeg, and Connor Hellebuyck, like you mentioned, hasn't done a ton of media in the past in those post Game 5 situations with the Winnipeg Jets, and doesn't do media as frequently as some of the other folks in the Winnipeg Jets market. But he came right out and looked media in the face and told them that he needed to be better and said what he was going to do. And look, I have full faith in Connor Hellebuyck. I think he's the best goalie in the world, and there's a lot of diagnostics we can run and try and look at the different shots that have gone in Connor Hellebuyck, the different saves he has been able to make, and all those different things. But point blank, at the end of the day, he does need to make a couple more saves than he is making right now. So it was nice to hear from him early when the Jets came back, and he was one of the last folks on the ice at practice yesterday, and he was on a morning skate today, and he's ready to go tonight. And the Winnipeg Jets have full faith in him, as they should. I understand that there's a lot of eyes on him compared to other players in this series right now, just knowing the legacy that is, for lack of better terms, at stake here because of how excellent he's been in the regular season in the last couple seasons. But he's going to be the one that everyone's looking at when the puck drops at 8:30 Central tonight.
Are you at the rink right now?
I'm not at the rink right now. No, I wasn't able to make it to morning skate tonight, but I'm going to be on my way over there after work today to soak it all in because, look, even when the Jets aren't performing, the crowd sure knows how to perform, and Winnipeg Jets fans are excited to be there, whether it's on the street, in the building, or at places in the nearby area. Downtown's a fun place to be in the city of Winnipeg on a Winnipeg Jets home game day.
Yeah, well, it just looks like you are in a dressing room sort of format, so I apologize for asking that. Navy Dawn writes in, he says, the Jets still seem to be fragile. I wish I was wrong, but Also, the Jets need to stop letting in goals with less than 10 seconds left in the period. Jay in Winnipeg says the Jets need some secondary scoring or they're doomed. Rich in Edmonton says, I can feel the tension in the peg 2 provinces away. Is it tense? Is it tension? Is it palpable there?
Well, I think it's hard not to look at this in a big picture format for a lot of people who are in Winnipeg here, right? Because the last couple seasons, the Winnipeg Jets have had really, really good hockey teams, and they've, had a rough end to the regular season, and then, they had the year against Vegas where they had almost one of the greatest collapses in NHL history from Christmas till the end of the year, and then that year didn't go so well. They lost in 5 after winning the first game to the Vegas Golden Knights, and then the next year, there were a lot of eyes on the team, and they said, hey, we're going to be better, and they brought in a couple pieces, they extended their core, and then once again got bounced in 5 games after winning the first, this time to the Colorado Avalanche, who seemed to have the book on the Winnipeg Jets from game 1. So the tension comes from the fact that this core has a ton of commitment from the ownership group, from the management, and if they can't find a way to beat a wildcard team as hot as the St. Louis Blues are after winning the President's Trophy and really doubling down on what this core is able to do, I understand that a lot of folks may have worries about what the future of the Winnipeg Jets looks like, because if not now, then when?
You talking the future financially, survivability in Winnipeg, or just from a 1 to 20 roster basis?
Looking more kind of on the latter there, I think obviously there's different people have different thoughts on the viability of the market or whatever, but I am looking more specifically at kind of the players they've committed to, namely in guys like Kyle Connor, who will be coming up on a contract extension next year, and then guys they have signed long-term in Mark Scheifele and Connor Hellebuyck. And if you think that this core is able to accomplish something, that's great, because they have some time left on their contracts, that's for sure. They've been signed long term. But if this group can't get it done this year, if they can't get out of the first round this year, how much faith do you have in those key pieces to be able to do that for you in the future? And I definitely understand why people may have their reservations with this group if this becomes the 3rd consecutive season that this team isn't able to make it out of that first round with all those key players playing those prominent roles.
You know what? It's kind of like, forgive me for saying, Vancouver Canucks syndrome, because their fans are writing in here saying, what do we do? I'm like, I don't know. Like, sell the team. For the Jets, it's like, we've got the best team in the NHL. We've changed coaches a few times and have had some great ones through here. What the hell is it going to take? I have literally no idea. Bomber Boy writes in, he says, the Jets are missing almost 140 points out of the lineup. Not an excuse, but it can't be dismissed. It's about keeping the puck out of the net, list, and I apologize that I keep harping on this. But again, the action that I've seen, the Jets were in control. I heard a stat the other day, though, that Hellebuck's save percentage is .836. Can you tell me how these goals are going in? Like, if the skaters in front of him let him down, or has he just been outright bad? That's what I'm trying to get my finger on here, because they're scoring enough. They're scoring enough that this series should be over.
It's fascinating for sure, because there is definitely the save percentage numbers, and even if you wanted to get more advanced than that in terms of the goals saved above expected and all those sorts of things, Connor Hellebuck's performance has been poor in the last 3 NHL playoffs. Like, there is no other way around that, and it's just fascinating, because I always say this, but I find goaltenders the most difficult position to evaluate, because so many things have to go wrong before a puck goes in the net. And so each goal I take a look at and I'm like, oh my gosh, okay, this player should have been doing this differently. This is how this St. Louis Blues player was able to clog up that lane or get that shot off or whatever you want to call it. But those things do also happen over the course of the 82 games when Connor Hellebuyck is putting up elite numbers. So I find it very difficult to completely absolve him of blame, and I think I wouldn't be alone in that. I do think a lot of folks are kind of getting near the end of the rope with, in terms of if he can't pick it up over the next couple games, what do you do? And I completely get that. I do think the team needs to be better in front of him, and there's no doubt about that, and I don't think anyone would really disagree with me on that either. But at the end of the day, when it comes to the NHL playoffs, it's so difficult to win hockey games, and everyone needs to perform at what their expectation is, if not a little bit higher. And Connor Hellebuyck's not doing that right now, and neither are some other guys on the team as well.
Jay in Winnipeg writes in and says, it's both, Rod, which you just said, but what a terrible time for this to happen. I guess I'll ask you this, fill in the statement. The Jets win tonight if blank.
The Jets win tonight if they don't give up bad goals in the middle of strong momentum swings on their own side. So that's where I'll go, and that's a bit more diverse than singling out specific players, whether it be secondary scoring or goaltending. But there have been a couple of times in these games that they've lost here where they have had some momentum. They're not playing terrible hockey by any means, and those daggers can really shift momentum over the course of a game. So, someone in your comments and who had messaged you about those goals at ends of periods and whatnot, those are the ones that they need to snuff out immediately and actually capitalize on some of that momentum that we know they're capable of generating and have tangible examples of them generating over the course of 4 games.
Okay, and last one, because I know you're busy. You're embroiled in a very wild series. What's the other one that's got your attention? Of the other 7, what's the one that's got your attention the most, or you've enjoyed the most?
That's a great question. I think I'm gonna have to go with Vegas, Minnesota, because Edmonton, LA, I was saying going into this was going to be my favorite. So the fact that it's been as exciting as it has, it's not really surprised me. But Vegas, Minnesota has really piqued my interest, and I was kind of expecting to be a little bit less engaged in that one. I was like, I'm not going to stay up for these late games every single day. I'll just focus in on LA, Edmonton. But Vegas and Minnesota has been so much fun to watch. The Vegas Golden Knights are such a fun team to watch structurally if you're a hockey nerd, kind of like myself. And Matt Boldy and Kirill Kaprizov and Joel Eriksson are such fun guys to watch on the Minnesota Wild. And the back and forth of that series, the road wins, the special teams, the overtimes, it's been electric, and I've been loving every second of that one.
Great stuff. And great job, Liz. Thanks for coming on. Enjoy the game tonight.
Thanks for having me, Rob. Appreciate it.
Liz Houde from Winnipeg Sports Talk. And it's funny listening to her talk. I'm sitting here as the Battle of Florida guy, feeling like the Winnipeggers always do. I'm like, what about our series? What about us? This series, well, it's not Nostradamus saying here that if Florida wins tonight, the series is over. We're coming home, and we're going to be in Tampa Bay tonight for Game 5. We are 27 minutes away from jumping in the jet and going. Or Tampa wins and prolongs it to Game 6 on Friday, and then probably a Game 7 on Sunday. My point is that all these other series will end, and this one will still be going, and you all won't have a chance. You'll have to watch this series and see that it has been the most vicious of all the Stanley Cup first round series. I was talking to my guy, Jeff. He's probably watching right now. Hotelier to the stars. Jeff says to me, has that Battle of Florida set a record for 5-minute major penalties in it? I'm like, probably not, Jeff. Do you remember the 80s? Every Flames Oilers game was like that. He's like, modern era. Yeah, my modern era, the definition of is color television. And to be honest, no, not even close in my opinion. I guess we could look this up. They're too busy counting stats like Brady Tkachuk had the most points in an elimination game in Senators history with 3. That's not important. Jeff asks the relevant questions. What's the record for major penalties handed out in a series? And we're not talking fighting. You know what I don't know. But that's what's going on here. And I'm surfing Twitter here this morning, and I see one of the Panthers reporters reporting that Paul Maurice has no comment on the Aaron Ekblad suspension of 2 games tonight and Game 6, if there is one. And he goes, that's what we have depth for, which they do, but that will hurt the Florida Panthers tonight going into Tampa Bay. Oof. Okay, sports update coming up, and then viewer takeover the rest of the way. Whatever you all would like to talk about, 902-518-3033, Progressive Insurance text line. Switch to Progressive and you could save a bunch. We'll be right back here on Game Plus Television, streaming live and podcasts wherever the best podcasts are found.